Let's look at the level of panic. We're going to use that to get into some panic, particularly. I was surprised by this. So we'll go through the AFC 1-1 teams, some panic. Yesterday, I was talking to Raider Nation Radio, which is the official Raiders radio station, and they brought me on. And as the host brought me on, I'm kind of a voice of reason when I do that hit every week. And the funny thing is the host even said, I thought we were going to have to bring you on to talk everybody off the ledge, but most of the fans are pretty okay. They understand, like, hey, this is a process. I think on a panic meter, I think 1 to 10, I think Raiders fans right now are to 1. They're 1-1, short week, going over against Washington. It didn't look great against the Chargers, but also it didn't look bad as it could have. I mean, as bad as it looked, you only lost 20-9. I know that sounds terrible. I think panic meter's a 1 for the Raiders. So there we go.
And I don't think it should be higher, frankly. I mean, we do our football vibes index every week. I thought the Raiders vibes going into the season were off the charts because finally, Fitz, you were telling me that for the first time in a long time, you feel like the organization is in good hands. And I think that they are with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, that entire new coaching staff. You bring in Geno Smith that has a lot of familiarity with Pete Carroll, that has a lot of familiarity with those systems. So I think overall, you can just be encouraged that there is a stronger foundation with the Raiders than there has been in a very long time. Did you love what you saw against the Chargers? Probably not. You know, there were some things that absolutely need to be improved upon. You know, the run game needs to be improved. You want to see Ashton Jeanty get more production than he has been getting. But overall, I think you can be really encouraged for the future of this organization.
Let's see how we feel after a short week against Washington with possibly a backup quarterback. What about the Broncos? Broncos vibes. They're 1-1. You and I talked about it. They got lucky in week 1. They come out. They get a little unlucky in week 2. They're 1-1. I think the vibe, like my panic meter here, 7. I'm going 7 for Broncos fans. There were Super Bowl aspirations. This does not look like a Super Bowl team early in the season.
No, it doesn't. I would say it's like an 8.
Ooh.
And like a 9 or a 10 is like your starting quarterback is out. Like I'm thinking, you know, there's probably some higher panic meters around the NFL, but Bo Nix doesn't look good. I mean, the first game against the Titans, it didn't even look like he belonged on an NFL field. And when all of the expectations for Bo Nix following up, you know, a playoff bid was that he would just take that next step forward between he and Sean Payton. We haven't seen him do that. Also, I thought the Broncos defense, and while they still absolutely can, we're only 2 weeks in, and of course, that's all we have to react to is 2 weeks. I thought the Broncos defense had the ability to be the best in the National Football League. The kind of defense that can carry above average, a top 10, top 15 offense to the Super Bowl. But we didn't see that. I mean, Daniel Jones went out there and threw for over 300 yards on Sunday. So I think the panic meter should be high. It's not to say that things can't improve in Denver. I think they absolutely can. They have the pieces to improve, but it hadn't looked so good through 2 weeks. But hey, you're 1-1.
I think that's the point. Like, look, do I think that the season is lost for the Broncos? My God, no. Like, there's plenty of football left, and they're fine. They're 1-1. Do I think it's concerning that Daniel Jones and the Colts did that to him? Yeah. So I think what's concerning is that week 1, Bo Nix looked like a real problem. Week 2, their defense didn't look superhuman. Then you stack all that and say, well, suddenly the worst case scenario for this gets much worse than I would have expected. And let's not get it twisted. Match up this weekend against the Chargers. I mean, this one's wild because the Chargers, if they win, would go to 3-0, including 3-0 in their own division. So I do think that there's a little bit of panic for the Broncos. What about the Steelers? The Steelers are 1-1 right now. And after 1 week, it was Aaron Rodgers is back. Oh, my God. And after 2 weeks, it was, oh, my God, Aaron Rodgers. So, like, where are we on the Steelers and the panic meter?
I think I'm at like a 5.47 for the, that's a statistical and scientific number that I came up with for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because in week 1, we saw probably the best that Aaron Rodgers has to offer at this point in his career. In week 2, we saw a lot of regression. We saw stinky Aaron Rodgers. So I kind of meet those two at the middle, that if you were concerned going into the season as a Steelers fan about Aaron Rodgers' consistency, well, at a 2-week sample size, you have on a silver platter, all wrapped up in a nice little ribbon, exactly what you were concerned about. the good and the bad and the inconsistencies of Aaron Rodgers. And at this point in his career, you just don't really know what you're going to get from him. So yes, I think that week 2 is concerning, but week 1 can give you a lot of optimism. I think the fact that Joe Burrow is out for the next 3 months can give you a little bit of optimism in your own division. So I think at this point, I'm not hitting the panic button for Steelers fans, but week 2 wasn't great.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna hit the panic button. I'll go 9.73.
What?
As the panic meter.
9.73? What?
So last night I was talking to my buddy Eric. Eric, big Steelers fan. And it took 30 seconds for him to get right to the Tomlin isn't it. He's not the guy. I got to fire him. And what I kept thinking about is where you start the season impacts where you are 2 weeks into the season. So many Steelers fans are sitting on the edge of like, I don't think this is the right direction for the franchise, which we've said over and over again. I don't think is necessarily the right take. I think you and I both agree that Tomlin's an amazing coach. But all of that being said, there's a large group of Steelers fans that are watching this saying, all right, you got Aaron Rodgers. You're out of excuses. I think panic button is high in Pittsburgh simply because they came in with a particular want for this organization. So because of the way they started their Monday, their Tuesday looks really bad. Even if it wasn't that bad. Like if you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, maybe that's the right spot to be for Steelers fans. They woke up on the wrong side of the bed this season, so now every little thing along the way pisses them off, and that means their panic meter is way higher than it should have been. All right, I didn't want to cut you off, Caroline.
Well, no. I would just say that I feel like there's a whole lot of confirmation bias going on with Mike Tomlin. That it's same thing with Aaron Rodgers. If you believe in Mike Tomlin, which you have a large sample size of belief for Mike Tomlin, you see the good and you say, look, he's Mike Tomlin. And then same thing with Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin and the bad of we didn't see anything great. And Mike Tomlin's lost it. Like whatever you believe, whichever side of the aisle you are, as far as the Steelers are concerned, you have data to back up your belief.